Hey freaks and friends, welcome to day 24 of the Dirty One Days of October. The daily content continues with the 45 years of Halloween celebration. Love lives today, but evil dies tonight, as we pick up where we left off and dive into Halloween Kills. Let's go! Make sure to stab that subscribe button and slash that bell icon so you don't miss out on this daily Halloween content all through the month of October. Halloween Kills premiered in Venice on September 8th, 2021, and was released to a wide audience on October 15th of the same year. The film was directed by David Gordon Green and written by Scott Teems, Danny McBride, and David Gordon Green. And the film stars Jamie Lee Curtis, Judy Greer, Andy Matichak, Will Patton, Thomas Mann, Anthony Michael Hall, and Kyle Richards. Halloween Kills picks up where Halloween left off. Myers is in the basement burning, seemingly to death. Laurie and her family are on their way to the Haddonfield Memorial Hospital, but Myers is not burning to death. In fact, he is doing quite well. As he is able to escape and demolish the first responders, he begins to make his way through Haddonfield, all on a quest to get back to his home, where he feels he rightfully belongs. And all the while, there's a angry mob being led by the one, the only Tommy freaking Doyle. And they're basically out to get Myers once they realize that he is out on the loose, wreaking havoc on the town 40 years later. Love lives today, but evil dies tonight, goddammit. We are out to hunt Myers' head because he has done too much bad to this town. And that's not even including the films that are no longer canon, sitting up here. That's probably one of the quickest, easiest ways to describe this film. There's a lot to unpack here. We're going to begin with characters. Of course, we're going to start with Laurie Strode, who in this film is, similarly to Halloween 2 from 1981, is relegated to the bed in the hospital, but she actually does have a little more to do. She does have some engagement with Hawkins, which I think is actually some of the coolest character building in this film, at least on her end. And she's not wanting to be a bedside victim. She is still under the impression that Myers was targeting her. She does ultimately learn that that was in fact not the case. Laurie in this one I think is pretty cool. I think that having her be involved more than she was in the Halloween 2, but also less involved than she was in the previous film, I think that was a pretty cool balance there. There was just something about the way that her role was handled here that I think was just... it was just the right amount of her. I don't feel like she was overused or underused. I don't know, I think that she did a pretty good job here. Not really a whole lot to say in regards to Jamie Lee's performance in this film. Then we've got Judy Greer returning as Karen, who I think also is a bit of an improvement here. I think that having that sort of cathartic moment where she learns of her husband's death and sort of has to come to the realization and acceptance for that. I mean, she was probably pretty damn sure of it at the end of the last film, but to see her really coping with that in this one, I think really is a nice little touch to her there. And we kind of see that going on with Allison also. And I feel like in a lot of ways that she does sort of come into her own in this film, and I'm glad they did allow her to do that considering how she ends up in this one. She's definitely still a compassionate individual, and she slowly has to figure out a way to become a badass bitch by the end of this film. I really like that moment where she saves her daughter, which is just one of those awesome moments because, you know, that's fucking what she's got to do. When she eggs Michael on to chase her, and she leads Myers into the mob right there in the final showdown. Not really, but what she expects to be his last dance with Haddonfield. That was a pretty great moment. And I don't know, I just like Karen a lot more in this film, and it's a shame she had to die. Of course, we have Andy Matichak coming back as Allison. I enjoyed her considerably more in this one. She's no longer the sort of untouched by direct trauma character. Again, like I said with Karen, we sort of see her really having to deal with Ray's death. And to see that sort of emotion coming through with both of them, I thought was a pretty good angle, like I said already. To see her wanting to take action and join up with the mob to take Myers down was also really cool, because it shows that she is aware of the trauma that has sort of been hanging over her family and the town as a whole. Just the way she's wanting to put her life on the line to help the town and sort of bring back the semblance of peace that was like pre-63 Haddonfield. And I think she also grows into being much better final girl material in this one. Again, having that sort of showdown with Myers. I will say also that she does sort of blossom into much more of a final girl type of character in this one. If you sort of combine what she has in this one and the previous film, I would say that she does have some pretty damn good growth. And at this point, she's farther than Jamie Lee Curtis was by the end of Halloween 2, 81, which there's going to be some fun parallels there. I mean, a good portion of this movie takes place at Haddonfield Memorial. We do also have some great Halloween alumni returning in this film. We have the return of Tommy Doyle, this time played by Anthony Michael Hall. This is the Tommy Doyle that I feel like would have been awesome to see in The Curse of Michael Myers, even if I did enjoy Paul Rudd's performance there. There's just something about this grizzled, just rough around the edges, ready to fuck shit up Tommy Doyle. You can tell he's definitely more or less dealt with the trauma, but it's still hanging over him. And when he realizes that, yeah, the town is under threat of Myers once again, the way he snaps into action and is ready to destroy him, it's pretty damn great. I think Anthony Michael Hall played, I don't know, some days I could go back and forth on which Tommy I prefer. I mean, with this one being fresh in my mind by like a couple hours, I might have to go Anthony Michael Hall right now. He had a lot less of weirder facial expressions, and I think for him to be among those leading the charge against Myers was definitely where his character would have been at this point. I'm not too thrilled with how his character ended up. I've said before that he should be the one to eliminate Myers at the end of the day. Just, there would have been something great about that, being that he was the one to first recognize Myers as the boogeyman. To be the one to see the life leave the eyes of the boogeyman would have been pretty fucking awesome. But we didn't get that. We got that scene exactly in reverse. What can you do? R.I.P. Tommy Doyle. We also have the return of Lindsay Wallace, reprised by Kyle Richards. It's nice to see her coming back, and still, there's really not a whole lot to say about her in this one. She does have a cool chase scene with Myers, and she's definitely a refresher to see in this film, just to have her back. It's definitely that feeling of reunion, which we'll use to go into two more characters, Marion Chambers and Lee Brackett. They are both also back. And with Marion Chambers, she's actually seen hanging out with Tommy Doyle and Lindsay Wallace, and fuck Lonnie Elam for that matter. They have a nice little survivor friend group, which I think is pretty cool. It's a little hokey, but I think it works pretty well. It's definitely fan service if fan service could fan service itself, you know? God damn, that was almost a tongue tie. I had it on pretty good authority that Nurse Chambers wasn't going to make it through this one. It would have been nice, but she did it once. Well, twice if you count the first film. But she doesn't make it through this one. And Brackett, he is still sort of within the law enforcement community. He's now a security guard at the hospital. To see him still in town is pretty cool. There's almost an air of sadness, though, seeing Charles Cyphers this old. But, you know, that's just life. Such is life. But it's fun to have him back. He does contribute some also fan service callback stuff to the first film. I think him talking about having to tell his wife about Annie's death in 78 was, I don't know, there was just something emotional about that scene that I felt it when he was talking about that. And that's one thing about this film too, I'll talk about in a little bit. It's just the way this one sort of plays with your fucking emotions. But we'll talk more about emotions the day after tomorrow, believe me. Holy shit. It's fun when he gets to bust out the old line, "It's Halloween. Everybody's entitled to one good scare." Pulls out on Myers. How he remembers that he said that 40 years ago, who knows, who cares. He said the line, that we all know and love. Sign me up, I love it. And we get Lonnie back, as sort of briefly mentioned. Lonnie this time is an adult. Of course, he's Cameron's dad. And to see Lonnie is, I don't know, it's a fucking treat in a lot of ways, because Lonnie, get your ass away from there is another one of those things that I feel is like, it's one of our little memes, you could say, sort of within the Halloween community. And to see Lonnie no longer breaking Tommy's balls and actually being his friend is a really cool little thing of growth there. Really makes you wonder what went on with Richie and the other kid, whose name is fucking blanking right now. Keith, maybe? I don't know. But to see a grown-up Lonnie is pretty cool. Also to know that Ben Tramer's probably still kicking out there in Haddonfield. It's pretty fucking great. But Lonnie is also kind of in that same sort of class as Tommy, where he's ready to bust some heads to get to Myers. And Cameron is one I want to talk about real quick too. Cameron, I feel, definitely redeems himself from where we last saw him throwing fucking Allison's phone into the whatever that was, the albino goulash. I think to see him go toe to toe with Myers was pretty cool, even if he got his shit wrecked and handed back to him twice. It was pretty damn cool. I think it definitely redeemed him. I will say he's definitely got one of the most brutal deaths. Like, when you're seeing the Cameron kill scene, like, you were feeling every goddamn bit of abuse that he has coming to him. And Big John and Little John, two of the most interesting and entertaining side characters in any Halloween film. There are some arguable factors there. Barry Sims, you know, fucking, I love my boy Barry. But these guys are fucking a hoot and a holler. I've always liked Michael McDonald, so to see him in a Halloween film was just a lot of fun. A lot of people know him from Leprechaun. Like, I grew up watching Mad TV, so to see fucking Stewart getting killed by Myers, even if it is off screen, there was just something fun about that. And I don't know, he's just a lot of fun in this one with the guy who plays Big John, whose name escapes me right now. It'll be on the screen there. But they were a fun duo. We also have the return of the doctor and the nurse from the previous film. Like, that's their costumes in there when he forgets the stethoscope. It's funny to see them back, and we sort of learn that the woman is actually the doctor and the husband's the nurse. So it's funny that their costumes are like occupational swaps or whatever. But they're fun characters in here. We don't really get to learn a whole lot about them. They help to make the community feel a lot tighter and a lot more authentic. That's probably like the biggest thing they contribute to this, also being two red shirts. Gotta love it. Of course, we have Hawkins back in here. We get some flashback action with him. Seeing him the night that he helped to capture Myers, we sort of get an understanding of why he sort of is the way he is. Again, sort of referring to the burnout statement from one of the officers in Halloween 2018. I could definitely see that with accidentally killing his partner, it definitely fucked him up. It traumatized him. The dude probably dabbles in light recreational drug use just to take the edge off, knowing that there is that blood on his hands. And I don't know, he doesn't really get a whole lot to do but talk with Laurie, but their sort of characterizations together develop a bit. And we see that there was that weird little spark there between the two. And I don't know, it's just one of those things that I feel like should have been explored a little bit more than it ultimately was. But to see Will Patton's character surviving and coming back for this one, I thought was pretty damn solid. Enough of side characters, let's get into the goddamn man of the hour, the reason why we are all here. We're taking a look at Chicken Fried Myers. So yes, Myers is now a burn victim once again, because as inconsistent as this franchise wants to be, it's still pretty damn consistent in some ways. But Myers comes out of the fire looking like a goddamn demon. We have James Jude Courtney, of course, returning from the previous film. And Myers is not fucking around in this one. Where I said Tyler Mane sort of ousted George P. Wilbur as the brutal Myers, I feel like in a lot of ways, this time James Jude Courtney is saying, hey, Tyler Mane, hold my beer, watch what I can do. This is probably one of the most brutal Myers we get. The large body count definitely plays into that. But some of the fucking ways he kills people in this one, like the firefighter scene, you can guarantee when I do the kill list there, that fucker's gonna be up pretty high. This is a Myers that is out for blood. This is what really could be the revenge of Michael Myers. In fact, I think there was, I can't remember if it was on Twitter or Facebook, but I definitely saw somebody actually said that you could do that with the David Gordon Green trilogy, as 2018 would be the Return of Myers, this would be the Revenge, and ends as like the Curse of Myers. In some kind of way, that's totally true. And this, with that said, this one really feels more like the proper revenge of Michael Myers than the Revenge of Michael Myers was. Again, parallels, consistent inconsistency. But no, Myers is just fucking great in this one. We get a little bit of unmasked Myers here, and the way that they apply just a little bit of burn scars onto him, I think looks pretty damn great. And one scene I really like, there's just something about it that's just so interesting, and this is just me Halloween fanboying over here. When his mask is off and he's chasing Karen to get it back, to see him carrying the knife, doing the walk unmasked, there was just something about that. It's like, the Halloween 78 fanboy purist side of my brain is like, no! But at the same time, it's like, that is one thing I never knew I needed. But, I don't know, there's just something so fucking cool about that. Even if it is a little against the grain of what we feel should be in a Halloween film, I thought that was absolutely fucking terrific. And another thing, in terms of Myers, this is sort of the last I'm going to really touch on him as a character, is some continuity with injury. I mentioned it yesterday, or a few hours ago if you're watching these in real time. His fingers are still blown off from the end of 18. He bandages them up, but to see that there is a goddamn acknowledgement of injury. Thank you. Thank you, guys. H2O, be better. The October feeling is still present in this film. It definitely feels like it's a direct continuation of the previous film. And it's funny how, in a lot of ways, it still is kind of pulling a Halloween 2 81 with the, being 3 years after its predecessor film. Kind of funny how history wants to repeat itself in this franchise. But this one is sort of, in a lot of ways, it feels like a departure from what the previous film was going for. It almost has a bit of an action movie vibe to it, and I think that's just with the whole idea of the stakes being a little bit higher than they were in the previous film. There's something, too, in the air with this one where there's a lot of emotion and heart in here, and it's something that I felt a little bit, particularly with the Tivoli scene, where he's running through the hospital and the mob thinks he's Myers. That's a scene I did enjoy, by the way. I don't care what you guys think. I know everyone fucking hated that scene. I liked it, even if it did fucking run a little too long. But it's a scene that I'll defend because it just kind of shows how the that sort of mob mentality rotted the minds of the town, like, in really quick time, too. I mean, this might be November 1 at that point. But there's definitely a feeling of you're really starting to get a little more familiar with Haddonfield here. That's kind of one thing about this film is you're seeing not only Laurie's trauma in this one, or Hawkins' trauma, or Allison's. Like, you're seeing how Myers has affected the town at large. And I think that's something that is pretty cool. It's sort of a little bit of a commentary on things that were going on at that time. And you guys know I'm not going to really go too much into that. We were all there not too long ago, so should be still pretty fresh up here. And on top of all of the dread and trauma that sort of looms in the air of this film, there is still some humor that is sort of carrying over from the previous film. It is toned down quite a bit though, especially when you look at just how heavy shit is in this one. And it definitely slows down its usage throughout. We don't have those pre-third act laughs like we did in the previous one. I think they definitely found the right balance with the little bit of humor they wanted to inject here with the horror and everything else, because again, this one feels like it's more than a horror film. It definitely feels like this is like the biggest scale of a Halloween film, I think, and that's sort of keeping Halloween 3 in mind, which is really in a lot of ways the big scale Halloween film. This one still has that. It just feels like there's much more going on, and a lot of that is sort of refamiliarizing ourselves with Haddonfield, getting to know it a little bit more. Arguably better, but not completely, than previous entries. This one definitely tries to out-sequel a lot of the other sequels. This was the only entry of the Blumhouse trilogy that I did not get to see in the theater, although I did watch it on Peacock. I believe it was the first night that it was available for streaming. So it's the only opening night I've really had. But I did catch them all opening weekend, so there is that. This was a fun watch. It was one that I was definitely anticipating because we already had 2018 under the belt. That sort of hype was out of our system. Was this one still going to hype us up? The trailer pointed to a big, resounding yes. I remember watching this one and I was geeking out the whole time. Every little bit of fan service that fan serviced in this film, I was like fucking yelling at the TV, and it mostly in good ways. Sure, I've kind of come down from that high just a little bit in the years that have followed, as I was saying in the 2018 video. This is one that I did thoroughly enjoy on first watch, and I still thoroughly enjoy it. I think it's one of my favorite in the franchise. I know that's apparently a super unpopular opinion. A lot of people are down on Kills. They feel that it's not a natural progression from where the last film was. And I can sort of see where they're coming from on that. But at this point, you know, the Myers high was in the air. Everybody was breathing in the fumes of that. And I still like this one. I like to see a brutal Myers. I do still enjoy something like the 78 where he's a Myers of the shadows. He doesn't interact with the audience a whole lot per se. But to see him being almost the main character in this one, even though he's a terrible fucking human being, just to see him really doing some Jason shit, it was just a lot of fucking fun, and it's something that I'm always gonna enjoy. I thought it was a pretty solid outing. There are some things about the film that are a little ridiculous. Again, the Tivoli suicide scene, that kind of drags a little bit, but it does sort of help with the pacing there, that it is sort of intercut with the Big John and Little John scene where they're walking through the Myers house trying to find out who's in the house. It's of course Michael. And I don't know, that it's just the pacing of that scene really. Sandra not dying from getting stabbed in the neck with the light bulb, I just find it a little hokey that they got to her and managed to save her before she would have bled out, because that looked pretty fucking fatal. Yeah, they could have toned down to the catchphrase of this film that everyone knows and loves so fucking well. Evil dies tonight. Shut up. Fucking Evil dies tonight. Did I mention this film has some Evil dies tonight going on? Yeah, they do say that quite a bit. It doesn't bother me too much, but it is kind of silly how that went to piss everybody off. It is funny that it is overused. Like, I feel like in a lot of ways they use that line to troll a good size of the Halloween fan base. And if that's what they were doing, well, boy golly, did it fucking work. So at the end of the day, guys, Halloween Kills, if you guys can't tell, I really do enjoy this film. I fucking love it. It's definitely one I would recommend if you found like the 1978 film to be too slow. If you don't like the more subtle Myers, the slow burn kind of stuff, this is one I would definitely recommend. I would definitely say watch it in tandem with 2018. This one doesn't really work as a standalone film, but it is still a lot of fun. and it's one I would recommend wholeheartedly to just about anybody. Being that I am a Myers fanboy, I do sort of have a bit of a polluted sort of mental direction with that. But with all that said, guys, Halloween Kills is going to get 4 overused "what the fuck is this movie's" catchphrases out of 5. As always, I want to thank you guys for tuning in. Please be sure to play with the notification stuff down there and all those other icons. Be sure to not miss out on the daily content for the remainder of the month. October 25th, we have the 45th anniversary watch party going on live. You guys don't want to miss that. It's going to be a lot of fun. Going to have a special guest on there. You guys don't want to miss out on that. So hit that bell. See you tomorrow.